So good afternoon. Welcome to our virtual open day today. So we're going to start with the panel right now on building a career in financial services sector. I'm going to do a presentation about careers and career services in ESSEC Asia Pacific and the types of services that we provide. And then I'm going to open up to our panel to talk a bit about what the market trends are for financial services, and a couple of our ESSEC alumni as well to talk about their journey that they've taken to come to ESSEC, and also to what they've done after they've graduated from ESSEC as well, excuse me. So just to kick things off, I want to talk a bit about our career services support that we provide to the Master in Finance, but really all of the programs based here in ESSEC Asia Pacific. So we've built the team up over about the last 18 months. We know that career services are very important for all students coming to our campus. And so basically it's me, and I have a team of 4. We manage corporate relations, alumni relations, and career services for the students that are here. We are experienced team, so my team come with backgrounds from industry, HR functions within industry, executive search, and more importantly from career services from a variety of universities here in Singapore. So 80 plus years of total work experience, quite a bit of experience within career services. But the one thing I really want to highlight on this slide is the most important thing is network. And we talk to the students a lot about networking and building a network. And so my team has, with their years of experience, has network connections in Singapore, in Southeast Asia, in broader Asia. And so we use our prior networks to help bring guests to the campus and to talk about internships and everything I'm going to go through in the next couple slides. Okay, so the portfolio of career services that we provide to all students at ESSEC is on this slide. Let me walk through this. So professional career talks, we bring in guest speakers to do lunchtime talks, sometimes for the entire school, sometimes specifically for one program. We bring in speakers to basically talk about their career journey, their company, their industry, or maybe a specific function, and to really share their experience with students. Of those speakers that come in for professional talks, about 80% are alumni, about 20% are just friends of ESSEC that have known us through the years. Next, we do one-on-one career consulting with students. So these are typically 45-minute, 1-hour sessions. Nice thing about this campus is we're fairly small and our door is always open. And so students can access us whenever they have questions about their career or anything specific, depending on what stage of the job or internship that they're in currently. So that's really open to really any topic. It can be anything from just exploring an idea all the way to specifically reviewing a resume and making sure that it's correct for the particular type of role. Career workshops, I'm going to skip over this real quickly because I have another slide that talks about the career workshops that we do for all students. Interview preparation, so if students are in the interview process with the company, they can approach us and we will do mock interviews with them. We'll run through real questions, treat it as a real interview, give them feedback on their answers, and really just food for thought, things that they may want to do differently or just things that they can think about and adjust. Company visits. So ESSEC is very engaged with our corporate community, with our corporate friends. And so we like to take students out into the companies and groups of students for presentations. It's always fun to get into their office and see what it's like and hear from them as well. We did our first Singapore finance trek in November. We had 2 days where we went around Singapore with companies like Bloomberg, Amundi, UOB, SocGen, et cetera. So it was really fun. And we will plan to do that again next year as well. I think it's really important for students to get out of the campus and get into companies' offices. Finally, career events. So we have 2 big events that we do every year. In November, we do a postgraduate networking event where we bring 20 to 25 companies on campus. In March, we have a talent day or a career fair. We bring in about 35 companies. Again, this is cross-industry. Obviously, we try to get a fair number of financial services to come in, but it's a bit broader than that. We bring in, consulting. It'll be big tech companies across the board. So we try to provide good contacts for all students across ESSEC, including students interested in financial services. Okay, real quickly, workshops. These are workshops that we provide to all students. The first is just introduction, who is career services, how do they engage with us? Career discovery, so it's more around what are your skills, motivators, and interests, and working with the student to really make sure that they understand themselves and what they would like to do next. Even if they're interested in finance, finance can be quite broad as far as the number of job scopes and even the types of companies that fall into financial services. So we want to make sure that they understand their skills, what are they interested in, and really talk through that. Resume cover letter writing, so this gets down to the tools that students need to apply online or if they meet somebody in person. Personal branding, so again, understanding depending on what type of company they're going for, understanding their own brand, but also understand what the market generally would expect from them going into those types of industries, those types of companies. Internship search, so we have a job portal at ESSEC Career Service, ESSEC. Sorry, I forgot the name. But anyway, we have a job portal. Job teaser is the back end of that, and where we post internships and full-time jobs for students. However, we always say that the best way to find a job is actually through networking. You're more likely to find your next job through networking than basically applying online, although a lot of financial service, the standard internship programs, you must go through online. But we always encourage students that you should also reach out and see if you can network as well. It's really the way to get noticed and to build relationships. Okay. Real quickly, I'll walk through a few of these categories just to show you some of the companies that we bring in and some photos of our events. So professional talks, again, you can see it's variety, which is open to, most of the time it's open to all students. On this particular slide, we have BNP from Financial Services, but we have staffing with Egon Zehnder and Google, et cetera. So again, across all industries, including financial services. Company visits, so SocGen is on this particular slide, but again, companies like Accenture, DHL Innovation Center. So more and more companies in Singapore are opening innovation labs, innovation centers, and so they're a good target for us for doing company visits. Okay, finally, one of our critical resources, this ties into really into the networking category, is our alumni. We have a strong alumni base here in Singapore. They're fabulous. They support us in any way that they can. And so we have alumni event about every 2 months, every 6 weeks, we will try and have an alumni event. Students are invited to those alumni events probably 95% of the time. And we always encourage students to attend. It's a great way to meet our very supportive alumni base. Okay, real quick about hiring trends, and this is beyond financial services, these are just general trends, and I won't read this to you obviously, but the two words that I highlighted is everything digital is hot right now, and across all industries are being disrupted. So anything related to digitization, artificial intelligence, technology is in demand, and a lot of companies are looking to hire in this space. And then hybrid roles, with the increase in technology, more and more we see job roles that are a bit hybrid, not as maybe silo as they were previously. So something like a business intelligence analyst positions that merge insights, analytics, and marketing, right? So we could give you a bunch of examples around this, but really hybrid roles are the future. And so students that have sort of they call it a T, where it's a broad range of interests and knowledge with going deep in maybe one topic. In Singapore, again, So I talked a bit about data and digital already, technology. We see the big tech companies hiring. When you talk about financial services, more of the tech companies are getting into that space. There's banking licenses that are coming on the market in Singapore. Companies like Grab, for example, are looking to move into the banking space. Razer, which is a big gaming company, is looking to team up and potentially move in as well. So, could be a lot of interesting developments in this space from a big tech perspective as well in the coming years and beyond. Startups, so for ESSEC particularly, we see a lot of demand for our students in the startup space. Again, sometimes some of these are playing in the financial service space. A lot of that is around payments, but we do see good activities with startups and wanting to hire our students into internships. And finally, languages. So I point this out because the Southeast Asia markets have been growing significantly. And so whenever we talk to companies, a lot of times they ask us about students that may speak Southeast Asia languages, Thai, Vietnamese, Bahasa, for example, very much in demand. But I always say that all languages are good languages. Sometimes we see European companies and they want a student that is bilingual, English and European language, because that makes it easier for communication back with the home office as well. So, but we do see a trend where the Southeast Asia language requirements our language capabilities are really in demand. Okay, so that's it for the slides about the careers. So now I'd just like to move into the panel. And I'd like to kick this off. The way we're going to do the panel is we're going to split it. We're going to talk a bit about general hiring trends and skill requirements in the market. And so we have, I'll let them give a longer introduction themselves, but we have two friends of ESSEC that are here with us today. Ellen Schwab, who's Vice President of APAC Junior Talent Marketing for Bank of America, and Josh Goh, Manager of Banking and Financial Services at Randstad Singapore as well. So I think just to kick it off, if I could get Ellen just to say a bit about yourself, please.
Yep, sure. Thanks, Larry. Really happy to be here today. So my name is Ellen. I am with Bank of America. I've been here for about 2 years now and spent the last 6-7 years in recruitment marketing. And what that means is that I work with the recruitment teams to develop strategies and to hire the best junior talent to the company. So very happy to be here and hoping to share and learn from each other.
Okay, thank you, Ellen. Josh.
Hi everyone, I'm Josh from Randstad. I've been in recruitment for the past 11 years and basically I've been covering the banking and financial services. Sorry, just to recap, right? I'm Josh from Randstad. So I've been actually covering the banking and financial services recruitment across asset management, insurance, and banks as well over the last 11 years. So recruitment is pretty much my first job since I graduated, and I think I'm going to do this for a while more. I mean, maybe another 20 years, I suppose. So I think the banking market is definitely picking up, and I will definitely love to share more with you as the panel discussion goes on. Nice meeting you guys.
Okay, thank you, Josh. So my first question for both of you actually is to really talk about, things are very dynamic, as I was mentioning in my beginning slides, but maybe talk a bit about what are you seeing in the market, and are you seeing changes in maybe the types of skills and the types of profiles that financial services is looking for? And maybe just give us your thoughts on where you think hiring is going for financial services. Start with Ellen.
Testing. All right, so maybe let me start off. I can give maybe a bit of an overview of what it's like in Bank of America and what we're seeing, and maybe Josh can give like the broader overview. So I think for us, basically, we still have a healthy hiring outlook. Maybe as just to give a bit more information, we hire about 150 summer interns every year across APAC, across different lines of business. And what we do in the bank is that we hope to convert most of our summer interns into full-time roles. So that's really the primary source of hiring for us. We don't actually see any, decline in terms of, the number of people that we want to hire. In fact, for Bank of America, we are growing in Asia Pacific. For us, at least, front office roles are mainly in Hong Kong And whereas for us in Singapore, it's mainly a tech and ops hub. So there are plenty of roles, not just only in the front office roles, but if you're interested in even HR or audit or compliance, there are roles like that in Bank of America. So still a healthy outlook for us.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so I think the broader perspective of the banking financial services is that it seems like all doom and gloom now over the last 1 week because of all the news, HSBC announcing cuts, UBS, and yeah, I mean, the major banks are announcing cuts and it seems like it is seeing a downward trend, but I think the reality here is that Singapore is still a major financial hub, and within Asia, Singapore and Hong Kong, Shanghai as well, ranks as the top, one of the top 3 financial hubs in Asia. So definitely, I think with Singapore being pivoted as one of the major financial hubs, especially for fintech companies that have set up shop here. I mean, the government investing heavily in actually putting up, a 30 million cybersecurity fund recently as well, to look at ramping up the regulatory regime in governing this security, financial cybersecurity teams, right? So I definitely see that the demand for roles across financial services will definitely come from front office, especially. I mean, where Randstad sees an increase in roles actually come in wealth management. I think we're definitely seeing banks hiring for bankers, right? Definitely within the family offices as well. I think we see a lot of new family offices setting up in Singapore. The Chinese family offices. I mean, we have calls from European family offices coming who want to set up shop in Singapore as well, and definitely in private equity as well. I think we see a lot of private equity firms setting up shop in Singapore. I mean, primarily because they want to ride on the tech wave as well, right? I mean, definitely they are bringing a lot of investors who wish to invest in the technology scene, and that's where I think they are hiring for definitely the front office folks in private equity investment analysts, yeah, especially, yeah. Thank you.
Okay, great. Can I just so just to build on your comments around private equity, because it's a question I get a lot of the time, is if somebody wants to get into private equity and in Singapore, I mean, what are the things that you're looking for? What are the skills or the background that would be required to get into private equity?
Well, I think firstly, for you to be able to get into private equity, most firms out there firstly look at whether you have a finance background. I think financial modeling skills are really important here. I mean, knowing how to use different tools, right? I think you would definitely need to have at least advanced Excel skills. I mean, beyond the basics, Excel skills for sure, right? And of course, I think understanding of risk management, knowing how to interpret financial statements as well. I think this is a core skill that I mean private equity firms look out for. And in fact, we have also, of course, seen these private equity firms hire from cross industries, right? I mean, you need not be from the banks specifically. You don't be from an investment banking track, but perhaps, or even coming out from a corporate finance team in the Big Four, right? I think at the end of the day, if you're from the healthcare industry, for example, you've been working in healthcare for the last 3 years to 5 years, right? And you'd like to join a private equity firm. I mean, if the private equity firm was going to invest in, say, the healthcare sector, they needed someone to, look at new healthcare trends, look for new investment opportunities in healthcare, they would hire you. I mean, especially if you had finance background, and you took a master's in finance, for example, ESSEC master's in finance, right? I'm sure that would gear you up, set you up, for a private equity role opportunity, be it in Singapore, Hong Kong, even in Shanghai, for example. Yeah.
Okay, great. So next question for Alan is just to build a bit more on the technology theme a little bit. And so with the new players, for example, but fintech and with the advances in technology that's disrupting everything, do you think the hiring trends are different right now for Bank of America as well?
Yep, I think definitely for sure, especially in Singapore where we have a lot of competition from the startups, a lot of fintech firms. So obviously what people may not know is actually Bank of America holds 82 blockchain patents. So, in the US, we are a retail bank, but in APAC and Europe, we're actually a corporate and investment bank. But what that means is that our tech teams actually work very closely with the US. So they do need to have, those trends exactly that you mentioned up there. So I think what you mentioned was digital. And I think that's really something that's really coming across, not just in tech roles, but also in your typical front office roles. For example, if you are interested in sales and trading, but you are familiar with, modeling, or, if you have studied Python, you know how to do some sort of, algorithms, that really, really helps. So definitely, I think that's one thing. And I also agree with the languages part because, let's say in investment banking, obviously, strong financial knowledge is a given, but how it really operates here in Singapore is that we do a lot of business in Southeast Asia, and in Hong Kong, we do a lot of business in China. So obviously, if you have the language skills as well, that is definitely going to help you to get additional footing into a role. So definitely don't just think about the hard programming languages, but even, the regular languages that helps you to communicate with your clients. So that's also very important for us.
Okay, great. Next question for Josh is, so again, a common question we get, because working with, we have students from Europe that come here and they're going to go back to maybe Paris or London. A lot of students that come here, of course, they want to stay in, either they're from Asia or they want to stay in Asia. And so we're always talking about Shanghai, Hong Kong, Singapore. And just to get your thoughts from the various markets, is it the same hiring trends? I know obviously with some of the problems with coronavirus now, things are a bit up in the air, but what do you think about the main financial centers in Asia and as far as hiring and the types of activities that are going on?
Well, I think I've been speaking to clients in the last 3 months, right? So some of them had a pretty good year in 2019. I think it's really hard to comment moving in 2020 for sure, because a lot of these clients within, basically even in Singapore as well, Hong Kong, and our colleagues in Shanghai hasn't been really able to say that they are going to hire aggressively. I mean, it probably was in maybe the third quarter of last year, but I think moving ahead, it would be a really cautious approach. I mean, even the Singapore government in a recent article as well has said that banks and financial services are really taking a cautious approach towards hiring in light of the economic situation. I mean, if you look at how the US market is performing, the US equity market is performing, there are a lot of companies out there that are probably overvalued and overpriced, right? So, and with all this, panic in the market right now, all this, the share prices are going bullish and over the roof. So what's going on? That's the market prices. Is there going to be a bubble soon? I mean, is the bubble going to burst soon? I think we don't know at this moment, but let's just say that we can only cross our fingers and hope to ride out the storm of this virus, right? And I think in 6 to 9 months, I think we would probably be able to, tell how the market is going to turn out. But I think as of what I see based on the requisitions from my clients, at least I think it's still relatively positive, but not overwhelmingly, positive. Yeah. That's if I put it in a more simplistic way. Yeah.
Okay, great. So for Alan, I think the next question I have is just maybe to pivot just a little bit is when you're interviewing candidates, I mean, at the end of the day, you probably have, when you get to a short list, everybody has great modeling skills, they have great numeracy skills. And so I really want to understand, what are the types of soft skills you look for to make the final decision? What's the differentiator when you have 5 candidates that really tick all of the technical boxes that you want for the position?
Yep, I think that's a really good question. So what we often do is we speak to the business to see what the feedback is after the interview with the candidates. And some of the main things that they've mentioned is, a lot of students are really, really good at what they studied. But what's really missing sometimes is, you need to be inquisitive. So you might know, like, this is the correct model to use for this solution, but why? Can you explain it to them? So obviously, I think, always take the effort to read up a little bit more, find out what the options are, be able to see the bigger picture. So I think that's something that's often missing. And what we see is that good candidates often would be able to take a step back and kind of be able to answer, not just to the question, but even value add. And I think what the other thing is also for a lot of the people that we see, they're all just fresh graduates, right? And everyone really wants to join the financial services sector. But the question that the interviewers would usually ask is why? And you really need to be able to articulate why you want to join that certain line of business that you are interested in. So obviously, there's going to be various reasons that you want to do so, but you have to kind of, prepare beforehand, be convincing, and really, be able to convince the interviewer as to your motivations for wanting to join sales and trading. Because, I love, looking at the markets, or, I want to join, M&A in investment banking because I love dealing with clients and, dealing with complicated deals. So really, go understand the business and find out what your motivations are. And I think more often than not, these are the candidates that tend to do well.
Okay, great. I like this question. So Josh, I'm going to ask you the same question because I'm just curious, what types of soft skills do you think differentiate candidates in this market?
Yeah, I think definitely to add on to that, right? I mean, for the outstanding candidates that we see that have successfully pivoted their career within the financial services would be those who actually take personal time out of their studies to invest in their own personal learning, branding, and portfolio. And what I mean is this, right? So today, if you had a goal to move into buy side, sell side equity research, for example, I would strongly encourage you to actually start developing your own portfolio while you're actually studying. I mean, well, I know you may not have millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? But what I'm trying to say is that, look, spend some time, right, looking at the markets, right? Pick up a few companies, right? Analyze their financial statements, do a financial model, write an article on LinkedIn and post it. Yeah? Well, make a recommendation to someone, right? Encourage them, whether they should make a buy call, a sell call, for example, right? And once you start developing this personal branding, you can use this as actually a part of a portfolio when you go to the interviewer, and start discussing what you've done. So I think this puts you at an edge, definitely. But if you're applying for a similar role within a bank, yeah, I think that's really, really important, and what I see helps a candidate stand out during an interview, especially if you're fresh, you have totally no experience in the sector,
So maybe just one more thing to add, Larry. I think, just to add on as well, I think if you can really start to connect the dots as well, because, investment banking work very closely with corporate banking, treasury. So really, take a step back and try to connect the dots between the different business units as well. I think that really, really helps to show that you are interested and you understand the business.
Great. Okay, so for Ellen, I want to ask, because this ties back to the campus recruiting piece of it, but also the degree as well. So the typical, I shouldn't say typical because there's a variation, but a lot of times you'll get engineer, for example, that will go get a master in finance. And I'm just wondering, when you engage with campus recruitment for postgraduate degrees, is there a certain profile that you're looking for, and do you see similar profiles, or are you open to a variety of profiles?
Yep, I think definitely we are not just hiring business students, but we would really hire people who have a different school of thought, right? So obviously, engineering students, computing students who might have taken a master's of finance degree. I think that really helps as well, because you will be better to articulate certain things compared to someone who maybe had a business education all the way. So when we speak to the business as well, I think they're very interested in finding people who come from different backgrounds, and that really helps with the diversity in the team as well. Because if you imagine if everybody had a business education, then they would just be thinking a certain way. So I think what our businesses have found is that they try not to, not only just to look at different schools, but just different backgrounds of study as well.
Okay, great. So for Josh, if you, I asked you about geography, but now I'm going to ask you about, the broader financial services. If somebody was asking you, what were the 2 or 3 hot areas where the job growth is going to be, let's say for the next 2 years? I mean, is it private equity? Is it fintech? Is it wealth management? What do you see from your broader view of the entire market? What are the 2 or 3 areas where there's going to be the most job growth?
Yeah, I definitely think wealth management is going to continue to thrive in this market. I mean, Singapore, or rather Asia as a whole, holds probably most of the ultra net worth and billionaires, right? And I think a lot of the banks, European banks, even they're investing heavily in growing their front office teams. So if there's a space that you should be in, I think definitely you will be wealth management. Yeah, if you can get a head start in your career, as a banker, I mean, definitely go for it if you have the necessary traits, right? I mean, you love to communicate, you love to work with clients, right? And secondly, of course, I think fintech, right? Fintech is definitely coming up, mainly fintech, insurtech, right? Definitely, because these technology firms really provide companies, well, I would say very interesting tech that their legacy systems cannot support. So in fact, these are partnerships that they actually can form with the banks or the insurers, right, to actually develop new products, new revenue streams. And I think that as a graduate, you should be open up your options to fintech firms. I mean, they may be startups, right, and they may not have the most robust structures and so on and so forth. But I mean, they are very experienced people or individuals that used to be bankers, that you can actually learn from. So if you're not able to get a career in a large bracket bank, or even one of the second-tier banks, right? I mean, look at the fintech firms, right? I mean, these are firms that will continue to hire, and the fintech scene and insurtech scene is definitely going to grow in the next 3 years to 5 years. Yeah.
So just to build on this a bit, because when you say fintech, I'm also curious from your clients and your landscape as well, your view around like maybe Grab or Razor or all these other tech companies that are trying to move into the financial service space. How do you classify those companies when you support them? And I mean, what's your view as far as their hiring outlook as well?
Well, I think with these firms, I mean, we talk about Grab, for example. I mean, Grab has recently moved into financial services, and they've also moved into insurance. So when we work with them, I think what they are looking for is not just a traditional banker, right? But they want to look for a banker who has had done several things. I mean, when I say several things, it means that that banker has probably exposed himself to many different roles within the span of his career. So that's where he or she can actually provide the sort of expertise that they want, right? I mean, at the end of the day, they are trying to start up a new business in financial services or insurance, for example. So if you would ask me how you can pivot yourself to those fintech firms or companies like that, would be to really not just to be a specialist, but rather look for opportunities where you can be a generalist as well, right? And learn many different skills. Learn how to code, right? For example, if you don't know how to code, well, go online. I mean, yeah, there are these days what we're talking about, no code platforms. I'm sure you guys may have heard of it as well, right? And if you don't know how to you don't know how to read a financial statement, well, go online, learn, and there are plenty of platforms out there for you to learn from, right? I mean, at the end of the day, I think what we want to avoid is trying to be a specialist, such that you lose sight of what is the upcoming trends in the job market in the next 3 years to 5 years. You don't want to be obsolete, right, at the end of the day. So what I encourage individuals, graduates like yourself, is to embrace continuous learning so that you can actually keep up with the demands of what these fintech firms are looking at. Yeah.
Okay, great. So one more question to Alan around a similar topic is because potentially you're competing with big tech nowadays for talent. And I mean, so how do you see that as far as the war for talent, and how is Bank of America going to compete against some of these tech firms to basically attract the best candidates?
Yeah, I think, obviously, these are all very good companies, but the proposition is going to be very different. If you would like to maybe get your hands really dirty, really kind of like work, do different things, I think a startup environment might be the right one for you. Whereas in the bank, I think it's a little bit more structured. Processes have been in place for a while. We also have global connectivity, so a lot of projects are done globally and with global clients. So I think the proposition is very different. You kind of need to ask yourself, what are you interested in? Do you want to be part of a more established team where processes are already in place? And nothing wrong with that, right? Some people do enjoy the structure, but some people really like getting their hands dirty, figuring things out, and I think that, to me, that feels like more of a startup environment. All great companies, and really, just need to find out what your passion is, because ultimately, at the end of the day, you must be happy waking up every morning going to work, and I think for me, that's really an important thing.
Okay, great. So to wrap up this part of the segment, I'm going to ask just one final question. So for somebody that's graduating postgraduate degree looking to come financial services, what's your final piece of advice that you would give them? Start with Bill.
I would say, definitely go back and find out more about the company that you are interested to apply to. Find out what the ethos of the company is. Find out, what the company represents. I think the basic knowledge, everyone would kind of have that. But really take the additional step, like what Josh said. If you're interested in sales and trading, go play with the markets. Go figure out. At least you have that real life experience before you even join the bank, and that really, really accounts for a lot, because you will be able to speak from experience. So really, go back and do the additional homework, and find out more about the company. I think that will definitely put you in a better state.
Great.
I think my final piece of advice is actually to embrace continuous learning. We are all very familiar with technology, right? But the thing is that a lot of us here do not take the initiative to learn what this tech is about, what AI, machine learning, and so is about. I mean, as the world progresses, I think we are no matter whether in banking, wealth management, financial services, or even in manufacturing or retail, right? You're gonna have to deal with tech being a part of your life in your workplace. So you got to learn a thing or two. You got to pick up some skill sets that revolves around it, because your job scopes are going to change. You are going to work with technology for sure. So if you don't love tech, start to love and learn how to use it, right? And really embrace it as part of our lives. Yeah, that's my biggest piece of advice to you. Otherwise, you would find that you may be actually making yourself obsolete, right? And you don't want that at the end of the day. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So now we're going to shift the panel discussion to our ESSEC alumni and talk to them a bit about their career journey, their education journey as well. I'll let them do a longer introduction, but I'd just like to welcome Mo Durrani, Associate Director, Regional Analytics, Treasury, Liquidity at Stanchart Bank, and Tilhani, Sales and Trading Graduate Analyst at Citi. So can we start with Mo?
Thanks, Larry. Hi, everyone. I'm Mo. I graduated in 2018 from ESSEC with an MBA in digital business. Prior to that, I was working for 6 years in the treasury world, spanning roles from risk reporting to ALM. That was mainly in the MENA region. After that, I came here to Singapore, did my MBA, and then continued my career at Stanchart. I did 2 years in treasury on top of my previous 6, mainly in liquidity modeling. So I was building liquidity models for the bank based on internal and regulatory guidelines. Just recently, actually, I just moved to another team, which is in transaction banking. So I decided basically to explore more options based on what ESSEC has taught me to always look for new things. Yeah, I moved to transaction banking. So it's more of a business-oriented type of role with its own challenges. And it's quite an adventure so far.
Okay, great. Till?
So, hi, everyone. My name is Till. So I'm French, and I did the Master in Finance at ESSEC Business School in Singapore. So before joining ESSEC, I was studying at Paris Dauphine University. So I did a master's degree in economics and financial engineering. So during my academic background, I had a chance to do some internship in sales and trading. So I did my first off-cycle internship of 6 months at HSBC in an equity and structured products sales and pricing desk. And then I decided to do a gap year with 2 internships of 6 months. So I did my first part at BNP Paribas. I was covering private banks in a cross-asset structuring desk. And I did my second part at Commerzbank in London, where I was working as an equity structured product sales for institutional clients. So after our master in finance at ESSEC Business School, I had the chance to do a summer internship at Citibank in London in sales and trading.
Okay, great. So my first question is around, your thought process, your decision making to go get a postgraduate degree. What drove you to that decision, and were there skill gaps that you were thinking about? And maybe just talk me through that. So Mo, you want to talk about it?
Sure. So as I mentioned, the first 6 years were mainly finance driven. So it was pure finance reporting, the typical plain vanilla stuff. And as you mentioned, with the rise of digital and all that, so I had this, let's call it weakness or gap, where I needed to fill in. I needed to know more about digital, how things are, not just in the financial world, but just as a whole, right? In understanding the industry. So that was the main reason why I decided to do the MBA in digital business, to get that digital advantage or edge on top of my career. And right after graduation, what happened is that the role that I took was purely a hybrid role, like you mentioned in one of your slides, a hybrid role of finance, understanding finance as it is, and technology. How do you translate those financial rules, guidelines into actual data, right? And that's where my role kind of grew from there, and then decided to take whatever I learned from there and shift it to the business. Now, as I said, the new role that I'm in, it is a business-oriented or a business-facing type of role. But what we're noticing is that there is more and more need for analytics to be available, timely analytics. So in other words, on-demand data with business intelligence that we can actually get from the BI that we develop that will help grow the business even further.
Okay, great.
So I first heard about ESSEC when I was studying at Paris Dauphine University. So at that time, I knew that ESSEC was one leading business school in terms of financial studies. So I realized that ESSEC was offering many high-level finance courses and many different tracks. So for me, it was possible, for instance, to follow the corporate finance track, the financial markets track, or now there is the fintech and analytics track in Singapore. So as I mentioned, during my academic background, I had the chance to do some internship in sales and trading before joining ESSEC. So the main reason I decided to choose ESSEC was because I knew that if I wanted to get a full-time role in a sales or in a trading position, it was super important for me to do a summer internship, because with a summer internship, you got a more chance to convert it to a full-time role. And getting a full-time role in a trading floor, it can be super difficult if we don't follow a good master degree in finance, and if we don't have some previous experience on it. So yes, ESSEC provides me with really good training to optimize and increase my chance of getting a job in finance. And also, ESSEC network is very powerful. So we are having alumni who are working, I think, in every different financial institution and in every different country. So I think it really helps my classmates and me to get some interview in all of these institutions. So ESSEC helps a lot on this point.
Okay, great. So I think a question for Mo is so after you complete the program and you've obviously been shifting a bit as well, is there anything, I don't know, specific that you took away from the program, and it could even be soft skills or network, et cetera, but that you think really has helped you sort of accelerate your career since you completed the program?
Yeah, absolutely. The first thing that comes to mind is the ability to transmit a message. So that's where the MBA strongly comes into play, where they help you develop that personality trait that you were missing before, and it is actually way more important than you imagine in the industry, and particularly in the banking industry, where imagine you have, let's say, 10 minutes to give a message or an update to a senior team. You don't have all the time in the world, right? So you have that limited time to transmit a message in the most effective of ways, and that will trickle down into a lot more decisions from there, right? So that's where the MBA comes into play and shapes you in this particular sense, where you can actually link those dots in a seamless fashion. Yeah.
Okay. And then likewise, I know you're really starting off on your career right now, but are you noticing already that you think that maybe you bring something different that some of the other people you work with don't, just from the ESSEC background, and maybe give you your thoughts on that?
So yeah, before joining ESSEC, so during my internship, I realized that if I wanted to get a full-time role in a trading position or in a structuring position, it was really key to get to follow some high-level finance courses, more in the quantitative side and the programming side. So ESSEC Master in Finance offers many high-level courses. So I had the chance, for instance, to follow some courses in option, in advanced option, in financial econometrics, but also in volatility trading and Python and VBA. So it was a very technical master who really prepared me for working in this type of position. But also I was super interested about the Asian culture and the Chinese culture. And with ESSEC, for instance, I also had the chance to complete it by following some Mandarin courses in Singapore.
Yep.
And also I think that the most added value of this program was really my immersion into a multicultural and international environment. So in my class at ESSEC in Singapore, I had the chance to study with people coming from very different backgrounds, with different working style, with different opinion. So I think it was super useful before joining the trading floor, because on the trading floor, it's exactly like in my class at ESSEC. We are with people coming from, who studies really different things, from engineering to aeronautics, to mathematics, to literature. So it was really useful on that sense to be in this type of environment in Singapore.
Okay, great. So I'm going to follow up with you again with another question, because I think where you are in your career, I assume that the current students are probably reaching out to you right now as well, and maybe just give us your thoughts on, your experience networking when you were looking for a job, and now that people are looking to you to ask questions as well. But talk to us about your experience with networking with ESSEC, or maybe outside ESSEC as well.
Okay, so when I started ESSEC, I remember during the first week of ESSEC, we had a training with Alumni who was super helpful to help us to pass the process for summer internship for the graduate program, because yes, the networking part was extremely important, and during this training they give us some precious tips on this, like they ask us to contact our alumni, to speak with them in order to have a precise idea of what we want to do, because I think before joining a master in finance, it's really important not necessarily to have a precise idea of what you want to do. For instance, I think you don't need to say in an interview that you want to work in a G10 FX option trading desk, but you need to be more flexible by saying, yeah, I want to work in a trading floor, and I'm interested about fixed income, about commodities, about FX, because I studied this and this at ESSEC. But also I think it's important to have an idea and not to be too much open, because sometimes people contacted me and they told me, oh, I want to work in a TMT desk in M&A. And I told them, oh, okay, I'm in sales and trading. And they also told me, oh, yeah, I'm also super interested about trading. But it's quite dangerous, because you need to have a precise idea of what you want to do. And yeah, the training that we had at the beginning of the year with Alumni was super useful for all the recruitment process, because when we are applying to all of this type of program, the process is super heavy. We have some, the application is super long, and we have some online tests to do. I guess at Bank of America it's the same. We have some online tests to do. We have some higher view, so we need to record ourselves in front of a camera by replying to some question. And by the end, we also have some phone interviews. So for instance, with CT, I got 2 phone interviews of 30 minutes. And by the end, you have an assessment center for a full day, you need to pass an interview. So the training that we had at the beginning of the year was super, super useful. And also I remember with the career services of ESSEC, I remember I had a group mock interview, for instance. I think it was 2 days before my assessment center, and it was very, very useful and complementary to all the networking tools of ESSEC. The training that we have in Singapore really helped me to pass all of this process. So yeah, it helped me a lot.
Okay, great, thank you. So Mo, similar question on the mentoring or on the networking, but for you, I know you've been such a supporter for ESSEC and mentoring as well. And so maybe tell me a little bit about how you view networking and engagement with students, and what types of questions do people ask you, and advice that you would provide to them?
I always say, be the exception in the way you're trying to network. Don't go where everybody's going, or else you will block yourself. So from my experience, when I was doing my MBA, I remember when I was in Sergi during that digital week, I was emailing people left and right just to to be able to have a coffee chat. And you need to first of all accept that not every single networking attempt will be successful. You need to be okay with that fact. It's just a fact of life, right? You have to market yourself in a way. You need to have a story, the story of you. It has to make sense. Why are you doing the things you're doing? It shouldn't be an answer that is super generic, like, oh, why do you want to be in a bank? Oh, because I love finance. Okay, that's not an answer, right? You need to actually have a good story behind it, because people can pick up like this if you're telling a lie or not, right? So have a story ready, keep networking, and expand as much as you can. You'd be surprised, like from this, you would be sending an email thinking it will never come back, and it does, and it happens, and it's exactly what happened with me. So yeah, just prepare your story and stay positive and keep doing those attempts.
Okay, great. So just 2 things I always emphasize is storytelling and be specific. So I absolutely agree with that answer. So
sorry for stealing your thoughts.
Exactly. Okay, so we're getting towards the end of our program today. So I want to give you, both of you, the same opportunity to, what are your final, 1, 2, 3 pieces of advice you would give for somebody that's coming out of ESSEC graduation, and things that they should think about, that you realize now, the things that you want to pass on to them. So start with you, Tom.
Yes. So I think that, as I mentioned earlier, like if you want to join our Master in Finance, you need to really think about what you like to do, and you need to contact some people from ESSEC to have a precise idea of if it can fit with your personality. So I think it's really important, because if you're starting this kind of program, like it's super intensive program, we have many courses, many exams at the beginning of the year, it can be really tough. But I guess that if you know what you want to do, you will gain a lot of time, because when I saw some people who don't know if they want to do, for instance, corporate finance or financial markets at the beginning of the year, so that means that you need to apply very early for all of this summer program. And if you're waiting too much by trying to find which is better for you, you will lose a lot of time and you will lose a lot of opportunity. So I think if you know from scratch what you want to do, generally speaking, so it will help you a lot by starting earlier your application, and by getting ready for your application, because you need to prepare it. It's not just about applying to this position, it's about also, you have a huge preparation to do with this, and you have to deal in the meantime with all of the courses with ESSEC. So sometimes it can be difficult to manage. Also, yeah, I think that you need to be like a team player. You need to you need to work with your classmates. So, for instance, we got many projects to do with our class during the year, and I think it's important to play it collectively and not to play it alone, because all of this application, you need to have some support, to have some help from your friends, and I think help a lot by being like really open-minded and by sharing your interview, giving some advice to your friends, and all these type of things. And yeah, of course, I would say that the most important thing is really to contact your network, use it. Like the ESSEC Master in Finance network is really huge. Like we have people really working in every different position, and you really need to contact them on LinkedIn. You need to call them and to discuss with them about all of this position, and then you will see that it will help you a lot to know exactly what you want to do, and you will be more prepared for your interview as well.
Okay, great. Mo?
What I would say for people joining the program is, first of all, get out of your comfort zone, right? Expect to be tested to your limits physically with the trip that we had. I'll never forget that, and of course psychologically. So you're gonna meet a lot of people with a lot of different backgrounds. So that will teach you as well to how to handle different cultures with different types of thinking, and you're gonna get along with a lot of people, and you're not gonna get along with a lot more people. So that will prepare you as well. And most importantly as well, don't focus on one particular industry from the start and stick to it all the way till the end. Keep an open horizon. For example, a lot of students would come, thinking, right, I just want to do consulting, right? And they just be fixated on that thing and nothing else, forgetting about all the other options that come that you have in the industry. They may not be as glamorous as a consulting job or a role, but they're missing out because they just decide not to look at it. So keep an open horizon. That's those are the top three things.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.